is
7 a.m. and it's now time for the Morning Watch with Reverend Dr. Dylan Toussaint. Today, the Morning Watch is brought to you by AIM Financial Corporation. AIM has a loan for any purpose. Visit any of our branches in Mandeville, Kingston, Spanish Town, Portmore, Maypen, Ocho and Montego Bay.
In need of a loan? AIM Financial is the place to go. We have loans from $20,000 to $3.3 million. Get a loan to pay school or college tuition, medical expenses, bills, fix up your house, buy furniture and appliances, repair or buy a car. And when you're done, take a vacation loan. AIM has a loan for any purpose. Call AIM today. You won't find a better deal elsewhere. Guaranteed.
Listeners to Love 101 FM are advised that the views and opinions expressed in this program are not necessarily those of Love 101 FM. Hello and welcome to the Morning Watch on Love 101 FM. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. A special welcome to our listeners on love101.org, and if you're overseas and on the move, U.S. listeners can access us at 712-832-8001. And if you're in the UK, 0330-332-6541. Or join us via the Love 101 FM app that can be downloaded from the Google Play Store and the Apple Store. You can also join us on Love 101 FM Facebook and YouTube Live. In the first watch today, the importance of the Data Protection Act for churches. And in the second watch, are we heading for a pension crisis? For our social media question, we ask, how confident are you that your church will protect your personal data? Share your responses on our Love 101 FM Facebook page and YouTube channel, and also on WhatsApp 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll share your responses later on in the program, but before all of that, here's our quote.
All right, good morning, good morning. Today's iQuote says, great things happen to those who don't stop believing, trying, learning, and being grateful. And this one comes to us from Roy T. Bennett.
Oh, speaking about being grateful, best wishes for the new year to you and the listeners. I trust you had a good Christmas.
Exceptional.
First time seeing you since Christmas.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Yes.
New Year. Exceptional.
A lot of cake and salad.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah?
Definitely.
Yeah?
Still trying to work it out.
Oh, yeah. All right. All the best again for the new year. The first watch will be back after this break.
Get ready for another inspiring show that's Testimony Tuesday inside Alive 1 to 5 January 9. Packed with inspirational stories and island-flavored music. 1:45, we bring you the brain testing meant to size, Listener's Week edition. Stick around for prayer blast at 2 o'clock as we bring in the prayer bells of heaven. 2:15 is the evidence. If you missed it in 2023, we have some of the most impactful and touching testimonies of the year in review. Then at 3 p.m., we go behind the pulpit for a year in review with your favorite pastors who have shared their stories and journey with us in 2023. All this and more will come alive 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. January 9 with me, Sarah Aaron, the Chirpy One, on the family station, Love 101.
I am a man, yes. It's a new year with new vibes on the next mailbox. We will kick off our first episode in 2024 with the theme Man of Purpose featuring Rondell Positive, musician, father, and husband extraordinaire. Get ready for a year of inspiration, positive energy, empowerment, and awesome encounters. Join us on Wednesday, January 10th at 5:30 p.m. on the family station, Love 101, the Mailbox. Monday.
God made the world and all that is within it. All things were made through him, and without him was not anything made that was made. One might ask, how can word become life? Some try to dispute it, but let's start at the genesis of it all. Tuesday, January 9, on The Rock, join host Bishop Harold Steve Blair and guests Pastor Christopher Kennedy and Pastor Sean Crew as they discuss the topic, the creation story. He made the world. That's The Rock, Tuesday, January 9 at 10 a.m. right here on the family station, Love 101.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. Now, the Jamaica Data Protection Act is now in force. Jamaica has joined several other countries across the world enacting similar laws, and this has been so for the past several years. The most far-reaching and stringent of these laws is the General Data Protection Regulations Act, which governs the processing of personal data of residents within the European Union. And organizations in Jamaica, including churches, must achieve full compliance with the Act or face sanctions. Having said that, how are the churches in Jamaica to make themselves ready or at least be in the know? So what do they need to know? Well, to answer these and other related questions, we have online Mr. Nicholas Forrester, Data Protection Expert, Director of AVLA Business Services. Good morning to you and all the best for the new year, Mr. Foster.
Great. Good morning to you and your listeners, and all the best for the new year as well.
Great. Okay, thank you. Now, in a nutshell, Mr. Foster, what really is the Data Protection Act? And as far as you know, why was it enacted in Jamaica?
Right. Okay. Thank you. So, by the way, the Data Protection Act is over 118 pages long and 77 sections. So, I will try to do it justice without baffling your listeners with legal jargons to explain in a nutshell what this law is about. So if we just take a moment to step back and think about how we interact and transact with companies and businesses in this information age, especially after COVID. Most of the information that we share with companies, most of the purchases that we make online involve the sharing of information digitally. So it's against this backdrop where, as you've mentioned, the European Union implemented the GDPR in 2018. And this was to enable the free flowing and safe flowing of information digitally. So therefore, the Jamaican government enacted a similar legislation to protect its citizens and also trade information within Jamaica. Now, the Act applies to data controllers and anyone who processes personal information about you and I. And all of the listeners would be data subjects. So the law applies to data subjects and the processing of personal information about data subject. Now, personal information examples could be your name,
Mm-hmm.
email address, your contact details, as in your telephone number or your postal address, etc. So, by virtue of having that information, it makes all of us data subjects who would share information with organization. And we'll be talking about the churches because the church performs an important function in the community. And in order to function effectively, it's imperative for the church to collect information about persons.
Yes. Still there, Mr. Foster?
I am still here, yes.
Yes. So when was it enacted? Really?
The law was enacted, to be precise, on the 10th of July 2020. And there was a 2-year transition period from the point when the Information Commissioner was appointed on the 1st of December in 2021. So the law effectively came into force on the 1st of December 2023. So that's just in a few weeks ago. The law came into effect. Now, because companies, made representations to the government that they weren't fully ready, there has been a 6-month transition. So it's like a phase implementation period for the law to be fully into effect across Jamaica.
So we're in that transition period now?
We're in the transition period, which lasts until the end of May this year. And that means by the end of this phased period or extended transition period, whatever terminology one may wish to use, every organization, including the church, that collects or process information about persons must meet certain minimum requirements. And one of this is, for example, to be registered with the Office of the Information Commissioner.
Mm-hmm.
Processing or collecting information about individuals without registration would mean that that organization is operating outside of the law. Some organization must, for example, appoint a data protection officer. A data protection officer must be appointed for all organizations operating within the public sector or organization which collect or processes information on a large scale. So, for example, a church that has several branches across Jamaica
Mm-hmm.
will be collecting information on a large scale, because that would involve information across a wide geographical region about several persons. Could be hundreds or hundreds of thousands, as we know some of these churches are very large in terms of their membership.
Mm-hmm.
So such organization would be required by law to appoint a data protection officer. And also, if information is collected which involve sensitive personal data, so for example, information about someone's religious beliefs, that is sensitive personal data. If that information is collected by virtue of the type of information, a data protection officer must be appointed.
No, we're nearing a break, but you mentioned at least 3 times this data protection officer and appointing that individual. What does that mean? Is that a trained person? What's the nature of that appointment?
Right. So a data protection officer, the role of this person or the function is to ensure that the organization complies with its obligations under the Data Protection Act. Now, this could be an employee of the organization. If it is an employee of the organization, there ought to be no conflict of interest with any other roles within the organization, that would impede or interfere with the functioning and the delivery of the functions independently
I'm
of
sorry, Mr. Foster, I have to interfere with your train of thought. We're up on a break. We'll be right back.
Time on Love 101 is now 7:15 a.m. We want to thank AIM Financial Corporation for sponsoring the Morning Watch.
You're invited to listen to Dollars and Cents every Thursday at 8:16 a.m. We'll give you tips on how to make your money count, how to save, and how to grow your wealth. It's all inside Dollars and Cents, brought to you by BPM Financial Limited, taking you higher. That's Dollars and Cents every Thursday at 8:16 a.m. on the family station, Love 101.
Jamaica and its workforce are advancing quickly. Life-changing opportunities are arising. You need training and support. We are the Renewed Heart NSTA Trust, committed to providing new and emerging skills training and opportunities. Come to Heart. We'll help you claim your place in the workforce of the future.
They're full of life. You're full of love. They're carefree. You can more. That's why we created Child Protector, a critical illness insurance plan from Sagicor Life. It provides coverage for your child in the event of 15 critical illnesses, hospitalization benefits, life insurance, and investment benefits. So make sure your child can live life to the fullest. Apply for Sagicor Child Protector today.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. And in this, the first watch, we have been discussing the importance of the Data Protection Act for churches. And in so doing, we have online Mr. Nicholas Foster, expert in data protection and director of AVLA Business Services. He has been taking us through the paces. Mr. Foster, you're telling us about the data protection officer and his or her duties in that regard. Please continue, sir. Still with us, Mr. Foster?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. Yes, the duties.
Excellent. So really, in summary, the functions of the data protection officer really are to ensure that the organization complies with its obligations under the Data Protection Act. And this is, for example, be a point of contact for the Office of the Information Commissioner, be a point of contact for data subjects, so as in customers of the organization who may wish to make requests, raise inquiries, raise complaints, etc. Function of the data protection officer will also to oversee data breach management, investigation, reporting to the Information Commissioner, as well as to data subjects, maybe also to conduct audits, etc. So in short, is to ensure compliance with the Data Protection Act for the organization from day one and going forward. So that could be an employee who is internally based within the organization, but also that function can be outsourced to an outside entity in ensuring that the organization complies and also deliver this sort of added degree of independence in terms of the oversight of the legislation.
Can you let us know, better the registration process to the Office of Information Commission? You said
to the Office of the Information Commissioner. Now, this is the government regulator, Yeah, this body was set up within the last 2 years, and the function of this body, which is it's an organ, an entity under the Jamaican government, is to regulate the
Mhm.
law across Jamaica and ensure that organizations and data controllers comply with the law, and also to issue guidance in terms of best practice, but also to impose penalties or sanctions for non-compliance. And it's really important for listeners and organizations and churches to take note that non-compliance will be met with severe sanctions. The Jamaican Data Protection Act is one of the most stringent, which I've seen, since the introduction of the GDPR, which you have mentioned. There are custodial sentences, as in imprisonment, for officers and executives within organization where there's a failure to comply. Also, organizations could be fined, though those are organizations that obviously have a turnover, 4% of their annual worldwide turnover.
Mhm.
And but also, those organizations may be saying, well, we don't not a profit making body, so therefore we don't need to worry. Well, you could be sued by your membership. You could be sued by your customers. You could be sued by anyone who can demonstrate that your actions or omissions have caused a breach of their data protection rights, where they have suffered damage or an impact from that breach. And also, there could be reputational damage and
Mhm.
sort of loss of customer base, loss of investment, etc., for non-compliance. And organizations should be aware, as I've said, we're living in the information age, where there's a global digital economy. For organizations to thrive and to flourish in this economy, it's important for organizations to demonstrate to its customers and client base and to shareholders that they've got robust systems in place to protect the personal data of individuals. You
Mhm.
Because otherwise, customers will react in terms of where they take their custom, and their business, and companies will lose, business as a result of this, because an IBM research has shown that consumers are most likely to do business with organizations which have effective and robust systems in place to protect their data and their data protection rights transparently and ethically.
Uh, we have been trying to focus as well on the churches. If there's a church, for example, that has only 25 members, would this also apply?
Absolutely. The act applies even if it's just one member, who turns up or doesn't show up.
Right.
The fact that you are a data controller, it applies to you. Now, a data controller is any entity or organization or person that makes decisions about the collection of data about you and me or the listeners. So if someone is deciding, I am going to collect this name and sort of last name Nicholas Foster because I'd like to, promote a particular product, or I would like to make a record because he's a member of my organization. That person or the organization is a data controller, and the law applies. Full stop. No other analysis is required. The
Mhm.
law applies, providing someone is collecting the personal data, name, email address, whatever, religious beliefs, political beliefs, whatever, information that relates to or
Age.
identify someone,
Mhm.
law applies to you.
As far as you're aware, Mr. Foster, how widespread is this act or similar versions of this act across the Caribbean region?
The law is widespread in a worldwide. In terms of across the Caribbean region, it's still, I feel like, being developed. So, for example, in Barbados, they implemented their Data Protection Act in 2019. So that was 1 year before Jamaica introduced their law. There are other countries within the Caribbean which are still sort of discussing, or their laws are still in this, if you like, implementation or legislative phases. So, if you like, data protection is becoming the norm. There are at least over 137 countries in the world that have introduced data protection laws. Yeah. It's really part and parcel of how we do business. And in order to trade effectively and to operate, it is important for organizations and for countries, to have these laws in place to protect their citizens and also to protect data. For example, in Jamaica, cyber threat is now not just an emerging, but an imminent and present risk to data.
Yes.
So it's important for there to be a law in response to like this threat, in sort of saying to organizations, well, we're not just here to impose penalties, but we are here to show you and to demonstrate what is good practice, how you can protect the information that you collect from outside interferences.
What's your response, Mr. Foster, to those who might be saying, but all of this sounds like another example of the state invading my personal space and place and privacy?
It is absolutely the opposite. It is the state, under the Jamaican Constitution, there's a right to privacy. The Data Protection Act, if like I've gone one step further in saying to citizens of Jamaica, we value your privacy. We value your personal autonomy. You've got certain rights that we recognize, and therefore we are going to, enshrine these rights in law. And therefore, we are going to say to organizations, if you're collecting personal data of Nicholas Foster, then therefore you ought to keep this information safe and secure, because failure to do so, you could cause him harm and damage. So therefore, this law is important to every citizen of Jamaica. There are, if you like, a number of rights which have been introduced and do exist under this law for individuals to exercise their rights against organizations, including the state.
Well, it sounds very serious, Mr. Foster. And you said it's a 6 months transition period. That's up to the end of May. Did I hear you correctly?
Absolutely. So it's about the 1st of June. That phase, if you like, is currently called grace, the grace period. And that is a good note for us to end on. It's a grace period. We're talking specifically about churches. And as we know, in terms of the Bible and grace and etc., grace doesn't last forever. So grace will end in 6 months, well, less than 6 months counting. And so by the 1st of June, grace period has expired. And organizations, including churches, could be facing penalties.
Okay, thank you so very much, Mr. Nicholas Foster, for joining us and giving us all of this information that is so important.
Great. Thank you.
Word to the wise is sufficient. Thank you. Listeners, the Morning Watch will return in just a moment.
The time by Gem Bank is
7:30 a.m.
It's a new year and a new season on Campus Connection. The new year presents the opportunity to build ideas, dreams, and visions. Individuals can reflect on past failures and make adjustments for greater execution in the future. You can overcome anxieties at the start of a new year and move ahead with much enthusiasm and renewed purpose. We will be starting the season's journey with new music release from David Sutton and spending time with Loretta Ricketts, acting principal of New Wave High School, and a quick visit from Rondell Positive. This all happens on Tuesday, January 9 at 5:30 p.m. on the family station Love 101.
The public sector touches the life of every single Jamaican, and that's why the government is transforming the way the public sector operates by making better use of technology to improve the delivery of public services, by improving the compensation of public sector workers to attract and retain the skills needed to run a modern and efficient public service, through training up workers to drive performance, innovation, and decision-making, by reducing waste and eliminating corruption, and other measures to make sure the country gets the best value from every dollar spent. The government of Jamaica is building a better public sector for all. Visit publicsectortransformation.gov.jm to learn more.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. Let's now look at the newspapers to see what Jamaicans and others are saying and doing. And we see here in the Gleaner, access to gated communities curbing take-up of jurors, says the Chief Justice. Also in the Gleaner, Defense Counsel grills CFO in Petrodram travel allowance fraud trial. In the Observer, NHT warns contributors of phishing, that's PHISHING, attacks. And also in the Observer, advanced technology will make new 6.7 billion bakery in Mobay among the world's best. Okay. And then finally, in Loop News, 2 men shot dead in Harborview community. Oh boy. Well, coming up next, we will read some of the feedback from our social media question. How confident are you that your church will protect your personal data? How confident are you that your church will protect your personal data? We're asking you to leave a comment on our Facebook page and YouTube channel, Love 101 FM Jamaica, or WhatsApp 876-997-3125. We'll be right back.
Hey everybody, it's time for Small People with Auntie Vashti.
That's right. It's the Small People Show with me, Auntie Vashti, every Monday to Friday at 4 p.m. Listen up, children. This is our time. And every day we want you in on the great things we are doing on the Small People Show. We come to have fun. We come to help you through those rough days. We are educational, inspirational, and the Small People Show with Auntie Vashti is taking over the nation. Every child must know that they are special because God created you special. That's the Small People Show with me, Auntie Vashti. Monday to Friday at 4 p.m. It's on the family station. Love, the inspiration.
And every afternoon, some people bring it out. We cultivate the youth, teaching them the truth. That's what they learn, that's what they live. That's why the
It's a new year and a new season on Campus Connection. The new year presents the opportunity to break ideas, dreams, and visions. Individuals can reflect on past failures and make adjustments for greater execution in the future. You can overcome anxieties at the start of a new year and move ahead with much enthusiasm and renewed purpose. We will be starting the season's journey with new music release from David Sutton and spending time with your Rhetoricians, acting principal of Millgrove High School, and a quick visit from Rondell Positive. This all happens on Tuesday, January 9 at 5:30 p.m. on the family station Love 101. God made the world and all that is within it. All things were made through him, and without him was not anything made that was made. One might ask, how can word become life? Some try to dispute it, but let's start at the genesis of it all. Tuesday, January 9, on The Rock, join host Bishop Harold Steve Blair and guests Pastor Christopher Kennedy and Pastor Sean Clue as they discuss the topic, the creation story. He made the world. That's The Rock, Tuesday, January 9 at 10 a.m. right here on the family station, Love 101.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. As we segue into the second watch, we're talking about retirement. And pension is a vital part of that discussion. But how many of us are prepared for life after work? Now, statistics say less than 20%, yes, 20% of Jamaicans, including public sector workers, can count on a pension to provide some income stability in retirement. This, among many other major issues surrounding our retirement and pension education and readiness, may have us heading into a pension crisis. Well, to discuss this issue, we have joining us Alicia Ganes, actuarial consultant and chair of the PR committee of the Pension Industry Association of Jamaica. Good morning to you and best wishes for the new year.
Good morning. Thank you for having me and Happy New Year to you too.
Thank you. Now, Ms. Ganes, tell us a little about your organization, the Pension Industry Association of Jamaica, PIAJ.
So the Pensions Industry Association of Jamaica is a not-for-profit organization. It was incorporated in 2004, and it was just around the time when the Pensions Act came into effect. So our mandate is really to ensure that every Jamaican can enjoy an independent life in retirement and can have adequate pension savings in retirement. Mm-hmm. So we're a body with different stakeholders in the pensions industry, superannuation funds, pension providers like actuaries, investment managers, administrators, and other essential sector providers like attorneys. So we leverage our expertise to ensure that the pensions industry is safe and to assist with advocacy to allow for our execution of the mandate.
Yes. How does a pension work in real terms in Jamaica today?
Okay, so in Jamaica, there the private pensions take the form of two different sorts of pension arrangements. So there is something called a defined benefit plan, and there is a defined contribution plan. Generally, those two plans are there are the sorry. So there's the approved superannuation funds, which
Using
are
some
the
nice big words there now, Miss
hello.
Ganes.
Yeah.
Using some nice big words there
Yeah, no,
now.
no, 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 no. I'm just going to simplify that. So
Yes.
the in the in the context of Jamaica, there is it's the private pensions, right? And the private
Mhm.
pensions, those are regulated by the legislation. So there's the approved superannuation funds, and those are the employer sponsored plans. So if you're working for an employer who sponsors a pension plan, um, the employer would either put aside some money for you and you would contribute, and when you retire, you would receive a pension. There is
Mhm.
also something called the approved retirement scheme, which, if the employer does not provide a pension plan or does not sponsor a pension plan, then you can privately enroll in this plan and contribute for yourself to provide a pension for retirement. So those are the two structured private pensions that exist currently. And within that context, there is also the public sector pensions,
Mhm.
which the government contributes to, and you are provided with a pension during retirement. And currently, that's those two combined have coverage of about just under 20%. So 20% of the labor force is covered by either the approved retirement schemes, approved superannuation funds, that's about 10%. And then
Mhm.
another under 10% is covered by the public sector schemes, the public sector and the new tourism workers pension schemes.
How important would you say is a pension, especially if it is considered a drop in the bucket with the high cost of living in Jamaica today?
Well, if you say, if as you say, it's a drop in the bucket, but if you didn't have that drop in the bucket, it would be worse, right? So you should be saving, and you should enable yourself to have different sources of savings for
Mhm.
retirement. Um, which is one of the reasons why there is this thing we call three pillar aspect of pensions. There
Mhm.
is the first pillar is the social security schemes. So that's the thing where the national insurance scheme, those are the national insurance scheme benefits. The second pillar is the private pensions, which we
Mhm.
discussed before.
Right.
If you're in a established formal pension plan, and the third pillar is your savings. So once you have, if you have these three aspects covered, you should be able to at least manage any sort of, not cover everything, but it should assist with the high cost of living that we
Mhm.
would experience in retirement.
Mm. As was stated earlier, reportedly less than 20% of Jamaicans can count on
Mhm.
a pension to provide income in their retirement. As far as you are aware, why is this so?
Sorry, repeat. You can just
Yeah,
repeat that
why
question.
less than 20% of Jamaicans?
Mhm.
Yes, why is this so? I mean, it seems to have been so for a good while.
Right. So there has been so in it usually the private plans, as I said before, kind of cover between 9 to 11%. It fluctuates between 9 and 11%, the private plans, and the government plans are well, the public sector plans are public sector pensions cover about same 9%. Employers aren't mandated to have a pension plan, so it's twofold. Employers aren't mandated to have a
Okay.
pension plan, but
Okay,
also
Miss Candice, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Don't want to break your train of thought, but we're up on a break.
Okay,
We'll
no problem. Mhm.
It is now 7:45 on the Family Station Love 101.
From generation to generation, Jamaicans have depended on J&M Bank to make the pride and joy of providing a safe place for their families possible. Now, with no processing fees and no down payment mortgage options, you can open the door to your own sweet home, a legacy to hand to your next generation. Visit jmbank.com to get pre-approved today. J&M Bank will help you find the way. Through its agencies, the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation is committed to ensuring all Jamaicans have access to safe, potable water.
In 2022 alone, the NWC has laid a number of new pipes, benefiting over 200,000 Jamaicans.
This year, the government is investing over 7 billion Jamaican dollars into the infrastructure of the National Water Commission through pipeline and increased storage capacity.
Providing you with water is our mission.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint, and in this, the second watch, we're discussing the whole matter of pensions in Jamaica. And in so doing, we have online Ms. Alicia Ganes, actuarial consultant and chair of the PR committee of the Pension Industry Association of Jamaica. And she has been, really enlightening us in regards to pension in Jamaica. And before the break, she was, responding to the question in regards to the less than 20% of Jamaicans who actually have a pension. Go ahead, Ms. Ganes.
Right. So, hi. Yes. So before the break, I was just saying that employers aren't mandated to have a pension plan, right? So that's one part of it, and that's the case everywhere. And then, secondly, people think that retirement is so far away, so they delay saving for it, right? So the impetus is on the individual to start saving from early. So I think a big part of it is that seeing retirement as far away and not putting any sort of foundation to save towards retirement.
Is there an information gap as well? Are there concerns about that? The general public knowing what is happening and what they should do?
Right. So there is an information gap. And I think that sort of starts from this when you learn about financial planning in schools. Pensions aren't really discussed outside of you work for a company, you will get a pension when you retire, right? Because people just assume that is the only way. But there needs to be a push to say, well, if there is also no pension plan, you should start thinking about planning for your pension, which could be in Jamaica, for example, there are 13 approved retirement schemes. Every financial institution has one. Go to your financial institution and ask what retirement solutions there are if you're not already in a formal retirement plan, because everybody has the opportunity to save via these retirement schemes.
Are there any limitations in regards to age, employment, and income?
Limitations
to be a
you
part
mean to save
yes,
in these pension plans, right?
Yes.
So if you're not in an employer plan, and so a big part of the employer plans is that if an employer has a plan, you're mandated to you're automatically enrolled in the employer pension plan, right? So outside of that now, if your employer does not sponsor one, then you have to be, the retirement schemes would have their requirements, and usually it's the working lifetime of the person between 18 to 64. Then you can join a plan. Once you're not enrolled in another pension plan, you can easily join the plan and contribute. Now, you would ask your employer, if you are within a structured employment arrangement, you can ask your employer to do the salary deductions for you, to make the salary deductions for you over to the retirement scheme of your choice.
Mm-hmm. And you don't necessarily have to be employed to be a part of a pension scheme, do you?
You do not have to be employed, but I think that if you're self-employed, you may have to do some sort of tax. There are some tax implications with respect to that. But generally, within a structured employment, once you're paying PAYE and statutory and doing other statutory deductions, then the employer is able to facilitate that with the retirement scheme. But just reach out to your retirement scheme provider to find out what options there are if you're not in a formal employment arrangement.
And there are no minimum requirements in regards to your income.
Everybody has a minimum. All the retirement schemes have different requirements. So some may have a minimum contribution, some may require a monthly contribution. So they have different requirements within all 13. And then they have different fees as well.
Yes. If someone wants to be a part of a scheme and would like to have a regular check on what's going on, update,
right. Mm-hmm.
And also to ensure that everything is above board, and at the end of the day they would benefit. How does your organization come into play in that regard, if at all?
So we really try to educate the public, to tell them things like, ensure that whatever pension plan you're part of, you receive documents that you're entitled to. For example, an annual statement. You're required to get an annual statement by law within no later than 4 months after the end of the plan year. So if the year ends December, you're supposed to get that information. Things like getting a member's handbook when you join a plan, because as you stated before, there is an education gap, right? So when you are enrolled in a plan, you should ask either your employer or the retirement scheme provider to give you more information about the plan outside of the short paragraph that you may get on what the plan looks like, because you're also entitled to that information. So we try to educate the public to say, ask for certain bits of pieces of information that you're required to get. Look over your statements, ensure that the money that you would have sent over to the different retirement schemes are reflected, because a lot of times people don't do those checks on their own to ensure that everything is actually above board and is correct.
Having said all of that, is Jamaica in a pension crisis, though? Would you say?
We are. The coverage is low. The coverage is low.
Would it be a crisis, if at all? I mean,
it's it can get worse if it's possible that it can get worse, which is one of the reasons why the PIAJ is pushing this auto enrollment objective. Because
what is that really?
Okay, so the auto enrollment. What the auto enrollment is for the persons in the structured employment programs. Well, who work like a 9 to 5 and have are employed, pay statutory deductions. What this is a program that you start working with an employer. At the beginning of the year, the employer would automatically enroll you in a retirement scheme, either of your choice or the choice that the employer decides. And then every year you would be making contributions on your behalf to this retirement plan. And you have the option to opt out if you decide that you do not want to participate in it. But on an annual basis, if you decided to opt out, the employer would re-enroll you at the beginning of the next plan year, just to ensure that they're doing their part to increase your opportunity to have some sort of retirement savings. Now, what studies actually have shown is that when you have this auto enrollment sort of plan, it increases the participation significantly and it increases coverage. So in some countries where this has where this auto enrollment plan has taken place, coverage could have increased between the range of 50 to 70%. So if we're thinking Jamaica's at 20 now, and we have this auto enrollment plan in place, we could have significant increases, and more of the labor force would be covered. So the next part of it is that there is this thing called inertia, right? The thing that prevents people, that delays people from enrolling in a plan.
Yes.
This is also the thing that will prevent them from dropping out of the plan if they think that it is not a good choice for them. So they end up sticking in the retirement scheme.
But as you know, there are some based on management styles and everything. The regular employee may not have access to all of this information to do the necessary checks and balances. What can be done in a case like that? What would you suggest?
The checks and balances about what specifically?
Yeah, the pension. You mentioned the auto.
Auto enrollment.
Right.
Right.
If that is not working out, if it's not being done annually, all of these checks and balances, what can we?
So once they're enrolled, they should be getting statements from the retirement scheme provider, and a lot of the retirement scheme providers have their pension platforms online. Well, all of them have pension platforms online. So once contributions are being remitted over to the retirement scheme provider, you should be able to check those, just like you check your bank account balances, and you should be able to ask the retirement scheme provider for information as you need it.
Yes.
Just to ensure that your money is safe and invested.
Yes, and as you mentioned, information. How can Jamaicans at home and abroad contact you in this regard? Contact your organization?
So we have a lovely website. It's called www.piaj.org. And within that, you can find the links to all the different social media handles. We're on Instagram. We're on X. We also have a lot of YouTube videos on the YouTube platform. You can search for us at the Pension Industry Association of Jamaica. And we have a lot of learning tidbits on the YouTube channel and on the website.
And could you remind us of the website again?
www.piaj.org.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much, Ms. Ganes. Very informative, very insightful.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. Have a safe day.
Thank you. You too. Bye.
Great. Thank you, listeners, for being with us. Join us again tomorrow as we continue to set the stage for discussion of topical and controversial issues. For information how to get copies of this program, call our production department at 876-968-9596-7. This has been the Morning Watch, of course. Thanks to our producer, Kathy Gale, and our guests. I'm Toussaint, and we're back to Love in the Morning with Jakal Daya.
We want to thank AIM Financial Corporation Limited for sponsoring the Morning Watch for today. AIM has a loan for every purpose. Visit any of our branches in Mandeville, Kingston, Spanish Town, Portmore, Maypen, Ocho Rios, and Montego Bay. Time on Love 101 is now 8 a.m. and you're